Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining for our last workshop of the Influencers Hub Ukraine and Incubator, first incubator for influencers here. My name is Yulia, and I would like, actually, I'm very excited to introduce you the topic and the participants of today's workshop. We are having the online new media tools, branding, and everything dedicated to marketing with some fresh new tips and tricks from our two speakers. The first one will be Dimitris Dimitriadis. He's introducing himself as a digital futurist, and he will actually tell what does that mean more. Afterwards, we will have Bektour Iskender. He is the co-founder of the Globe Media from Kyrgyzstan, but he will tell us more where he appeared now, because I know that he's in Kiev so far. And he will probably tell us a story and tell more about branding and his experience in ruling a media. So the floor is yours. Dimitris, go on, please.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen in order to start with a keynote and then reply to your question as regards what a digital futurist does. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Dimitris Dimitriadis, and my mission is to give the world a better understanding on how exponential technologies shape the way we communicate now and in the future. In the presentation, I will give you some, let's say, quick tips on how to navigate through a meta-COVID era, or how to communicate through a pandemic. And then we will move forward to some practical tips, and I will end my presentation with the futuristic stuff in order to support the future part of my work. So let me full screen this. Okay, so now you can see the presentation. Okay, before COVID, my presentations, let's say, had a section about some fundamental things that we need to do in during digital communication. Then we move forward to some tools, and after that, I close every time with the future. But with this little red guy in our everyday lives, and because we are now in times of epistemic change, I need to change a bit my presentation in order to discuss about how we communicate during crisis. So the first thing that everyone that does communication must understand is that right now, according to this hierarchy of needs, this is the pyramid of a well-known psychologist, we are very, very low in this pyramid. We are not in the self-actualization or the esteem or in the love or belonging. We are in the safety needs. We need personal security, we need health, we need everything that will give us the essence that we are safe, and this is something of the past, and right now we can build our lives and move forward to this pyramid and go to the love and belonging and start, let's say, trying to find some self-esteem, some status. The first thing you need to know is we are very, very low in this pyramid. And what we are going to do about this and how this connects to the communication. Communication and digital media and all the things that we are going to speak together is about digital transformation. And COVID-19 was a great, and still is, a great catalyst for digital transformation. We saw companies that they didn't know about e-shop or online services building e-shops through the night. We saw governments that didn't have anything about vaccinations or means of digital transformation in order to inform the citizens about the pandemic, building brand new infrastructure and test new methods with mobile phones, with videos, with different digital means in order to communicate and in order to communicate effectively. Why? Because people try new ways in order to get served or informed. Every one of us during the pandemic found a new way to do something that had physical connection, or it cannot do it differently due to the pandemic. These are numbers from web conferences platforms and traffic from mobile and users through desktops or laptops trying to get served or informed for this pandemic, or even entertain themselves doing different things because we need new ways. And COVID-19 gave us this opportunity to transform very, very fast our digital presence, our digital tools, to hardly test things on digital media, and we saw some things that we can keep after the pandemic, or to a new meta-COVID, if I'm allowed to say, the new normal, that we can keep some of our, let's say, Zoom calls that can be just an email, or some Zoom calls that we can avoid a huge meeting and make a quick audio even call. These all digital tools and digital transformations gave us the opportunity to test things and understand that we can be efficient and do better things on digital outlets and, of course, online. What we do in terms of communication as regards a pandemic and when we are in a crisis. First, we try to focus on great values. In times of epistemic change and in times of crisis, in order to be, let's say, closer to our audience, closer to our consumers, closer to our team, to our people, we need to communicate great values. No one wants to listen another classic sales pitch or an advertising, or to be sold to something. We need to, let's say, embrace the new normal and start communicating great values. The other thing that we tend to do during a pandemic, especially big businesses, is that they lay low and they try to focus on the classic immediate needs and prioritize everything in a closed manner in order for the pandemic or this change to pass. They say, okay, we are laying low and we are not speaking about anything. We are trying to keep all communications as little as possible in order not to be connected with this, not to communicate something in a problematic audience. The audience has problems by themselves, so let's not do anything. But this is wrong, and we need in the new normal, we need to be present, to do things differently and start to be there and keep an eye on the future and communicate great values in order when the recovery will arrive, we need to be there and to be a new communicate, to find a new communication way in order to understand, and of course, our audience will understand that during the pandemic, we were present and we were there for them from, let's say, even from the small things, for the small things, or for the bigger picture that we were present. And of course, the last thing out of three is that we need to showcase solidarity, encouragement, and responsibility. When the society is very, very low in this pyramid of, in the hierarchy of needs, we need everyone as communicators to start communicating great values and to show our empathy to the society. If we understand these three values and that we are in times of epistemic change and in times that we need to be present for these people out there, and of course, for every one of us, we will understand the core essence of digital communication during a crisis. So let's see some different things in terms of things to consider when we are doing digital communication, and to understand some basics for digital communication. First thing is that digital communication and digital channels and everything out there is always on. Always on is not something that we can, let's say, we will make some post, we will make our content, we will put it out there and leave it or program it, and we can move forward to the next one, or find new channels to start experiments with. So the one thing we need to consider when we are doing digital communication is that we are speaking to an always on audience. Not only during breaking news, not only, let's say, during crisis or during things that we want to communicate, but 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The second thing is that trust in digital media is the currency. We are going to speak about synthetic media and new media and fake news, but we need to understand that with our audience, we need to build trust. And trust is the currency for every digital outlet out there. If we manage to build trust, even in a smaller audience, and we are consistent and we are there and feeding this currency with our integrity and with our faith to the audience, and by vigorous fact-checking and everything out there will be 100% solid, we can build trust, and this trust can give us a huge advantage to every channel. We can start building our presence through anything. I'm going to speak about virtual reality, augmented reality, transmedia, or whatever. If we don't understand that we are during a crisis and we need to have great values and we need to build trust in the beginning, everything that we will build in these new media, it will have let's say it will be very shallow. So we need to understand that trust is the currency for everything we do online. Another thing is we need to start working with segments. Working with segments is something that digital marketers do every day. They try to build actual personas, to build their, let's say, their databases, and they target specific individual with specific messages. We as communicators must do the same. We need to understand that building personas and speaking to your ideal audience is the best thing you can do in order to make a better story, to make a more valuable message, to, let's say, curate everything to your ideal news consumer or content consumer out there. So we are starting and drafting our personas, and we are not speaking to demographics. We don't say we have a woman which is 20 to 24 and is living in Kiev, or has a taste for music. No, we are building a persona. We have Julia, which is 24, speaking two languages, went to this university, has this taste of music, this taste of fashion, has this kind of content in their Instagram following, searching for this type of queries in Google. So we are trying to build an ideal persona to cater the message in the exact thing, in the exact concept that we want to communicate. Next one from the practical ones. So the other thing is that we need the KISS method as regards the content. We need to keep it stupid simple. Why? Because communication and messages out there, we live in times of very short attention span. Our attention span of an adult is around 12 seconds. So we have 7 to 12 seconds to get the attention out there. So if we are keeping this stupid simple, we can pass the message across, and if we have a complex message, it's harder to grab the attention and keep someone engaged for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes in the digital world. So we need to keep it stupid simple. So let me check about this. Okay. Before I will go to my, let's say, futuristic path, I need to speak about some tools that we have right here, right now, and we need to embrace in order to tell better stories. My presentation is about exponential technologies. These are things that we have today. So we need to start from today, and right now that we address the whole concept of how you need to communicate through a pandemic and what type of values you need to communicate, we are going to see the tools, and let's say the actual presentation is starting after we go from these tools to the more, let's say, coming ones. Today, we have some tools. First, we have TikTok. We need to embrace TikTok because of the huge organic reach that has. I understand that is a big Chinese company, ByteDance, that doesn't respect anything uh, as regards your data, because TikTok is built on top of a huge machine learning algorithm that knows everything that you do inside the app and inside your phone in general. But if we need to communicate a message and we need to use the tools of today, TikTok is a great tool because we are going to have a lot of organic reach very, very easily by doing some classic things like challenges or any other type or format of storytelling. Inside TikTok, it will work. The other thing is Amazon Alexa. We are going to speak about the voice, and we are going to speak about chatbots and conversational AI. But right now, we have out there Amazon Alexa, Echo, Google Home, Apple Pod, Facebook Portal. We have a lot of these kind of little speakers inside our houses that you can speak with them and give you a Wikipedia link, a Wikipedia description, or search something on the web, or even play a song. But this is going to change, and you are going to ask. We saw yesterday about MAM, the new algorithm of Google, that you can ask certain logical questions to a Google search, and you are not going to search through keywords as we were so far. And this is the new trend about AI and conversational commerce in general. You can speak to Alexa, order food, order groceries, order something from Amazon. Same thing you will have with Google Home or Apple Pod or whatever. What I want you to do is to learn how you will make stories and how you will make your message compatible to the Alexas and the Google Pods of this world, in order for the next time you will ask something to Alexa that is relevant to your message, commercially or in general, your message, Alexa has the right answer and reply to you or to any user with the proper answer. The other thing, I'm stopping because, as I said, the keyword Alexa, my Alexa woke up and say things. The other thing is Spotify. Spotify, Anchor, and all the podcast platforms are rising. They are great formats of storytelling, and you can use them in order to build something to touch people's souls through a story, because voice, not only from the Alexas or the automated assistants out there, but from an actual human being telling a story, is always better option. So you can use Spotify or Anchor or any other medium and record your podcast and tell stories through podcasts. Another thing of the now is Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a new social network, is a very trendy social network in the US. Right now, Clubhouse is like, let's say, Spotify and Twitter met each other and have a baby. So Clubhouse is real-time streaming that you make audio discussions inside rooms that we have a short, let's say, panel, and of course we have an audience. And there you can start a room and you can make discussions, and nothing is recorded. It's not like podcast. Nothing is recorded, and you can start a conversation or an interview or a story, or even there is a room every night that they are telling lullabies in order to go to sleep. You can find numerous ways to tell your story through Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a total live streaming thing. Before 1 month and a half, made it available iOS and of course on Android. They started last year, May, only on iOS, but right now they are cross-platform and they are everywhere. And the last thing about digital media of today, we have the classic, the actual messengers, WhatsApp, the Messenger app, Instagram. So these all inboxes, they are going to merge and they are going to be one unified inbox. And because people, they like to talk each other through text, and our generation, Generation Z, is a more audio generation. Our generation and baby boomers are, let's say, more to texting. We can text easily, and because we want to text, we are going to find better solutions in terms of text. So we're going to build communities on Signal, we are going to build communities on Telegram, we are going to build communities on new mobile apps that support texting and all the format of texting. We will see the first thing on how to say stories through text and how we can make conversational chatbots. But right now, the trend is that people losing their faith to the classic Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, and they are moving to Signal, and they are moving to Telegram, and they are moving to new applications that they provide the security and the privacy, which is big for the users. These are the actual now. These are things that you can embrace even tomorrow. So I will move forward with the more futuristic stuff. Let's play this. Okay. So as I told you, storytelling and storytelling in new media exists in the core of human experience from the dawn of time. The human brain needs only a split second in order to get a signal that will become a perception. So the good news is that our brain, every time that gets this kind of signal, and with fragments of sensory input, an image, a smell, the sense of a place, a video, something makes a positive memory, forms a positive memory. We need just a fragment of sensory input in order to make a perception. So the bad news is that with the same fragments, we output this poor perception, because we can see something and understand something wrong, or we can see something that is totally fake and take it for granted or whatever. All our perception is a reality, a storytelling that we tell to our brain. So storytelling has the power to change our perception. And this is why is so powerful. I tend to say that stories are this wonderful, rare, fragile thread that connects people's souls with a purpose and moves them to take action. So what are these new technologies that we can use in order to make better stories? The first and not so new technology, but we have advancements here, is chatbots and conversational storytelling. We have right now the ability to use new tools and build conversations that can understand the context, that even sense emotions, and build a chatbot or a conversational machine. It can be a chatbot, it can be a screen, it can be even an avatar. We will see about the avatars, and tell a story and guide our visitor to a story and tell things through text easily with a nice narrative that is like a dialogue. Why? Because people are creatures that they want to have dialogues and they want conversations. So these chatbots can be a great means of telling stories. The other, let me make it full screen or something here, okay? The other thing is about synthetic media. The advancements of artificial intelligence right now doing great things in terms of synthetic media. We can build things. Imagine that right now we can have a movie localized in any language, and we can see the actual face. We can see Robert De Niro, for example, speaking Chinese or speaking Greek, and not feel the awkward voiceover that someone is speaking a different language, and we see the actual Robert De Niro speaking Greek by his lips. This is all made up by artificial intelligence. We have AI tools and machine learning tools that can measure and understand the face movements and replace faces and expressions inside the video, even render it in real time with an actor and build a different story. Of course, we have concerns about deep fakes and all the videos that can be manipulated out there, but we need to see the good in this world and understand that these kind of technologies can give us great opportunities for storytelling. So synthetic media or AI generated media are so far misunderstood because of the deep fakes, but for the future and the future of storytelling is a great technology. We can make localized movies for people with hearing problems that can see the actual lips moving and telling the narrative in their own language and understand without having to read subtitles or without having awkward voiceovers. We have digital avatars that we can produce. We can produce AI generated stuntmans and not have, let's say, people do very dangerous things. And all these AI movie or production related things that we call synthetic media. The other part is augmented reality. Augmented reality is for my generation. When we say augmented reality, in many cases we thought about Tom Cruise moving screens in the Minority Report and all that stuff. Right now, augmented reality is the vomit rainbows and the cat ears that you see on Instagram filters or on Snapchat filters and all that stuff. We need to make augmented reality. We are going to have augmented reality in our everyday lives. Why? Because augmented reality, it's something that can be easily overlapped to our actual realities, and we can have it through right now a mobile phone and our cameras that we can play Pokemon Go, for example, and have an overlap in the actual world of Pokemons. But very, very soon, Luxottica and Facebook, they are working on an actual glass, not the Google Glass dorky one, an actual pair of glasses that you can see through the lens an augmented reality filter, and you can use them easily in order to manipulate data in your actual world. And of course, the next thing, because okay, everyone says augmented reality, it's nice, but in my phone, I have a user interface that can I interact. If I have it in my face through my glasses, what can I do? And the next thing that we are going to see is that through watches, and I don't know if Facebook is going to build a watch or an Apple Watch will do the trick, but we have the wrist and all the movements that we can do with our wrists, that we can manipulate data in augmented reality and build stories through augmented reality. Imagine, for example, if right now we can have all the data that I share with you to see it in front or on top of your screen as another layer. Every data point that I share with you pops up inside your room, and you can see new information coming and all these bubbles coming out as an augmented reality layer inside your actual room. This will be a game changer in terms of how we tell stories in the next 2, 3, maximum 5 years. This technology is something that is already here. We are building on top of this technology. We didn't found the best mean possible because cameras and mobile phones are fine. But if we are managed to go to the glasses, it will be groundbreaking. A step after augmented reality is mixed reality. Mixed reality is the, let's say, convergence of using glasses, but not the exact glasses that we use every day, a specific headset, and these glasses are bringing us to a mixed reality, and we can interact with this reality and have a more holographic, a more 3D, and more immersive, let's say, half immersive experience, because we can interact with the technology and also do things in the real world. I will give you an example of mixed reality. If you want to tell your kid a story and you want to tell them a fairy tale for to put them to sleep tonight, and you have a nice headset that can see the actual mermaid sleeping next to them, or hear the story of any hero, let's say the prince or the princess, telling the story from your comfort and the security of your houses, sitting next to her and speaking and telling the story, and listen the story from the actual princess and interact with the princess in a 3D environment, in a holographic environment, that you can see that something is there and I can interact. This is mixed reality, and it's going to be a realization to the next 10 to 12 years. It's very hard to predict when a technology will caught up, because right now we are not living 100 years of evolution during this century. We are living more of 200,000 years compressed. So everything can have giant leaps, and tomorrow we are going to speak about, let's say, the mixed reality in our everyday lives. And another technology is virtual reality. Virtual reality is something that is already there. We have Oculus Quest, we have Oculus Rift. Facebook is building Facebook Horizon, which is a virtual playground to do things and build worlds. The concept of virtual reality for storytelling, for me, is something huge. Why? Because right now you can have a world that is personalized to your own needs, to the needs of your story. You can easily tell a story through virtual reality, because you are building the actual world. Right now, we don't even need joysticks. This video is from the launch of Facebook Horizon. We have Oculus Quest that has trackers on it, and we can track the hands without having any problems. So we can build stories on virtual reality. And of course, the one thing I want you to notice is that, as you can see on virtual reality, because we cannot track we can track only the upper body, we can be more inclusive. We can have a virtual reality that is inclusive, that can have inside people with disabilities, and it's a huge immersive technology. It's like doing scuba diving. You are totally immersed in this world, with sound, with audio, with immersive 360 video. You can build stories inside virtual reality. And as Ray Kurzweil said, if we manage to build a fairly good virtual reality, we are not going to need the actual reality after that. So we need to learn and we need to experiment how to build stories in the actual virtual reality. Facebook Horizon is on beta right now. All big companies, they are building their own virtual worlds in order to be ready for the trend when the technology is there, because virtual reality is not something new, it's something that we speak about for the, let's say, at least 20, 25 years. But right now, the technology is here and evolving very, very fast. And we can use virtual reality in order to tell stories. Another mean that we can tell stories is through games, through casual games, through games that can have a storyline, a storytelling. And why I include games in a, let's say, media storytelling workshop, because through games you have one very unique characteristic. You can fail. You cannot fail a book, you cannot fail a song, you cannot fail a podcast, but you can fail inside a game and you can learn through failure. So if we need a story that can teach people something and make, let's say, a standard learning process through a gaming experience, games are the best thing that you can use in order to tell a story. You can build a game and have a great storytelling from the 3D games that you can have great graphics to the very simplistic, schematic, casual games that you can tell a story through a pong or a circle or a dot that has a story to say, and you can move around and play with it and understand what you can do with this dot. So games are great tools to tell stories. And the last and the more futuristic, let's say, technology is the sensory inputs or implants that you can have in order to tell new stories and to sense better a story. I will give you an example. Everyone thinks that we only have 5 or 6, or in many cases, 7 senses. That we smell, that we hear, that we touch, that we see. Okay, we have 33 senses. We have the sense of belonging, we have the sense of balance, we have the sense of the north, we have the sense of our heartbeat, we have the sense of temperature, we have different senses that through multisensory storytelling, we can tell great stories. And with the implants and all the things that we can start changing to our bodies after 20, 30 years, we can even tell great stories. I will give you a very small example. We are during a pandemic, and we managed to synthesize smell, for example. How you will feel if you go into a room and smell the scent of the tragedy of COVID-19. We can produce with a machine, the smell of this tragedy. Are you going to be vaccinated or not? You will believe that COVID is real out there or not. So through multisensory impact, we can tell better stories. Imagine that if you have an implant and I can tinker your body temperature and you roll in an Amazon forest campaign, and every day that the temperature rise a bit, 1 or 2 degrees in the Amazon forest, our campaign tinkers and let's say move up the temperature of our bodies for 1, 2 degrees Celsius, and we can feel the inconvenience. Are we going to convince that climate change is real? So through multi-sensory inputs, right now we cannot do these things because we don't have the technology yet. But through multi-sensory input, through the sense of balance, through the sense of smell, through the sense of belonging, through the sense of the north, and all these 33 senses, we can tell great stories. And in the future, we will have even more technology to tell even better stories. The essence is not about the technologies, is where what I call the space between. We need this space to come from the connection of technology with storytelling through your ideas inside here. So don't think about AR, VR, or augmented reality and mixed realities and synthetic media and all that stuff. Think how you will connect the technology with storytelling and always connect with the space between technology and your idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dimitris. And Bektour, sorry, I forgot about the questions. Probably somebody from the
We have 4 minutes, so if we have someone from the audience that has a questions.
Let's do that right now. Either in chat or you can switch your camera on and tell us. So as far as I see, no questions so far, but probably, Dimitris, could you please stay for a little bit? Probably we will have somebody in the chat. And Bektour, please, the floor is yours. Tell us about Co-op and your experience.
Hi, everybody. Just a little sound check again. Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. I also need to switch on the presentation, and I hope it works. Just a second. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes. Perfect.
Amazing. So, hi, everybody. I think it's loading. Yeah. My name is Bektour, as Yulia had already mentioned. I'm from Kyrgyzstan, and I think my presentation would be especially useful for those of you who plan to launch your own media product or your own media outlet, to start your own media organization. And I'm going to share some insights from my experience. And when Yulia approached me and she asked me like if I can hold a session about branding and online marketing, I was like, I'm the wrongest person to ask, for this, because I'm not sure I'm really a good example. But then, I thought a little bit, and I thought, actually, this is what I can share. How we build a successful media outlet without branding and without much of online marketing, and we still don't know if we were lazy or we were actually smart. but we've reached some success, so probably it was not really a bad idea. But I'm not going to, of course, undervalue the importance of branding and online marketing. But we'll come to that a bit later. So who am I? And what is CLOP? CLOP is a media outlet, which is based in Kyrgyzstan. And we are especially famous for how we cover politics. And we especially love covering revolutions. And, you know, fortunately, there are so many revolutions in Kyrgyzstan that we are not left without our jobs. And we are also famous for our investigative journalism. We especially love investigating organized crime and corruption in our country. And again, there is such a high influence of organized crime on our politics, and there are so many corrupt officials that we have plenty of topics to cover. We also love doing experiments, various technological experiments. Some of them are similar to what was shown in the previous presentation, actually. And we are also famous for our education program, where we train young journalists and programmers and election observers and scientists and several other, directions. This is our logo. And, this is the history of how the logo was created. So I was 21 when we founded CLOP, and I was just kicked out of the university. I was a really bad student. And at the same time, I really dreamed to become a journalist. And I really dreamed, to create something by myself in terms of media outlet, because I just didn't like the way most of media outlets were working in Kyrgyzstan. And together with my friend, we decided that, we should do something. And I didn't have much else to do anyway, because without a diploma, not so many organizations would be interested in me. So we decided, to start our own media organization and to start our own courses. And you can definitely feel that we had so much of self-confidence, and I wonder where did it come from, because actually we knew so little back then and had very little experience. And the history of the logo that I had just shown was very simple. I came to my uncle, because I knew that he had some designer friends, and he came to his friend and a designer, or maybe a self-proclaimed designer, because I still haven't met this person. And that guy did something for us, and we thought, oh, it's not a bad logo. And so that's what we've been using since then, as simple as that. And the name CLOP, it's even more mysterious. It doesn't mean anything. We just needed, to name our media outlet somehow. And we came up with several other stupid names, and then ended up naming us CLOP. It sounds a little bit like a bad bug, I guess, in Russian, and maybe in some other Slavic languages. So that was, of course, a source of many jokes, which we really didn't care too much about. But the thing is, why we did it, and why we had this strange approach to things like branding ourselves or promoting ourselves, was because we actually didn't have enough resources to invest into this, And I think if you are starting a media organization, if you are starting a media outlet, this might be one of the challenges that you face, that you start very little. You start by being a very, very small organization, usually having very little people. And in very many cases, you don't have enough resources to think about this kind of things. So you either have to find, your kind of self-branding intuitively, or maybe you should just not think about it at the first stage. And this might be my recommendation. If you look at the history of some of the greatest companies in the areas, many of them would start with something simple like that. If you find the first logo of Google, you'd be terrified. And of course, this does not mean that branding and marketing is not needed. It is needed. It's just, very important that before you invest into this seriously, and especially before you invest like big money into this, if you want, make sure that you do the main job. And that was, the thing that we've been doing all these years. So from time to time, some of the club employees would ask us, do we want to change this logo, designed by the friend of my uncle, whom I never met. And we said, well, maybe not yet, because again, we were not sure, and we're still not sure that we have enough time and resources to seriously invest into this. This has definitely not been our top priority, and we'll do that when we feel like we are ready to feel that we need it, and we will do that when we feel that this is something that will definitely improve, our work. But so far, our branding and our self-branding, I would say, and our marketing strategy was based on something different, and that's what I want to share with you. So somehow, crazily, we still managed to sell our merch. And this is a bit strange, because we have never seriously invested into designing everything related to our brand. But there are people who actually buy it. They can buy it through Patreon. And this is one of the ways how we are funded. And we've had some instances of people, receiving, for example, a tote bag with Club's logo and then posting something in social media saying, excitedly that, oh yeah, cool, now I have this Club's tote bag. So why would people love our merch despite our almost zero investment into developing the design? It's probably because of things like this, you see, and this is, I think, the first and foremost important thing. If you found a media outlet, is that first of all, you should definitely invest into being great journalists. And this is what we did. So for example, this is one of our most famous series of investigations, which was about a corruption ring in Kyrgyzstan, which was about a huge mafia that has been operating from China in Kyrgyzstan and then through the rest of Central Asia. These kinds of stories, they shook Kyrgyzstan crazily. I don't know why the slide is not changing. Okay, now it has changed. This is the protest that was caused, by this series of investigations, and we were very proud that our stories influenced, the politics of Kyrgyzstan in such a way that it led, to even bigger protests. That it led, in a way, to election results being cancelled, things like that. That it led to huge political changes in our country. And first of all, it was thanks to the content that we have been producing. And suddenly we realized that this is actually our branding. This naturally has become something that we are famous for, something that people associate with us, something that people associate, with the fight for freedom in Kyrgyzstan in general. And because of this, suddenly, we have our merch being sold, still with that old logo, still, still with that strange square dots near club name, which I still don't even know what they mean in our logo, but and that were designed by my uncle's friend, just because, you know, they have this strong association with the changes, including political changes that are happening in Kyrgyzstan because of the content that we publish. And this has become the foundation of our marketing in a way, and this has become the foundation of our branding, the foundation of our image. And I think this is very important. So, of course, it was also very important for us to invest into people. And this has also become part of our image, you know, the amazing, gorgeous, talented, very brave journalists who we have educated. This is just some of them. And again, especially, you know, when people started associating our stories with these amazing personalities, it has become a very strong platform for our sudden, you know, very positive branding and also very cool marketing. So as you see, this actually works. It's just very important, you know, to feel the vibe of where your work leads to, and not to lose too much energy at the beginning on something that will naturally come through the years, maybe, of your really cool, hard, talented work. Maybe that's not, you know, the only right solution, and I'm sure there are different strategies, and maybe our way is not the perfect one, and maybe there is no perfect way, but at least, you know, this is how it worked in our case, and this is how it helped us to achieve some of the success. Because I've seen, you know, several media outlets in my region that started their existence with a very pompous kind of way of presenting themselves, spending so much resources, money, and energy on designing stuff which would then not fit, you know, what they would actually produce. And that looked a little bit miserable. And that actually led in so many cases to them, you know, being shut down after a year or so, despite all these efforts put. And on the other hand, we have, you know, our organization, which has been existing for 15 years. And maybe one of the reasons why we are so old now is because, again, we tried to be very efficient in terms of what we use our energy and resources for. So I guess that makes my presentation very short. And I think this is a really great example from the previous presentation where Dimitris shared, you know, the case concept, keep it simple, stupid. And I feel like very much impressed by this attitude. I followed it. So because this is surprisingly the end. But I'm very open to talk to you about that, especially if you are planning to launch something. Let's have a conversation about it, because that's something, you know, that I can share a lot of experience about, and something that I'd be very happy to share my experience about. Yeah, I guess that's it.
And probably now we need to have some questions. And we see, so somebody from DCN is asking, actually. Could you please
share the
monetization, right?
How we survived, and that's actually, yeah, that's very important. And the merge experience that I shared with you, it was actually it is one of the ways how we fund ourselves through that. And again, you know, this was the same thing. We also tried to make it as simple as possible and to keep it as simple as possible. Of course, we dream, to have more resources to invest into more serious kind of research. But so many times in our history, we had, this dilemma of choosing between spending our time and resources on hiring several really cool designers and then dedicating some time to work on this kind of stuff. But then in some cases, this would lead to sacrificing our efforts on, I don't know, investigating something urgent. And we would usually choose journalism. And I think for media organizations, this is important. And I think our readers have mostly been kind of forgiving us, and we would, one thing that people, sorry, this is not really an answer to the question, but I'll come to the answer. This is, and this is, you see, this is also one of the things that we thought was the lack of branding, but it seems like it has become actually our branding, is to be honest, with your audience. And being honest is important for journalists in terms of, well, first of all, your content is honest. So, what you write has to be fact-checked and everything, and proven and so on. But also be honest about what you have resources for and what not. When we started our crowdfunding, one of the first things we wrote to our funders was that, yeah, we know our logo is ugly. Our name is strange. We are such a weird looking media organization, probably. But you see, that's the important thing we do, is that some criminals in Kyrgyzstan are really afraid now to of journalists, and this is probably one of the best achievements. Or like some criminals are under sanctions now from the US, which is also one of the, I think, consequences of the work that we have been doing. So please support us. You see, this is the important thing we're doing, and suddenly this has become, the basis of our image, the basis of our branding, which kind of came so naturally that even I would say it was a surprise for us. In terms of crowdfunding, and let me read the exact formulation of the question, was some ways of monetization. Yeah, so definitely crowdfunding has become one of the ways to monetize us. And in Kyrgyzstan, doing it is a bit more complicated because Kyrgyzstan is still a couple of steps behind, for example, Ukraine, in terms of how banking is developed. We still have a lot of population, a lot of people in our country who don't have, access to, for example, bank cards or bank accounts in general. And for these people, it's difficult, to support us, even if they want. When we had our first crowdfunding, it was a one-time crowdfunding for a series of stories, actually, about the war in Ukraine. People would bring cash to our office. It was a nightmare to, process this, but we still did it. And right now it has become a little bit easier, and we managed now to collect all of this money through online systems. But I guess for countries with the more developed banking system, it's even a greater perspective, to start something like this. And for this, you of course need some sort of branding, and you need some sort of marketing to sell kind of yourself. And in our case, we were selling the idea of how open and honest we are, and how we are actually true fighters for justice, and that's something that we totally believe in, and that helped us. And the next question I say is, how about native editorial articles? Are you against or in favor in some cases? We are actually in favor, and we do them. Oh, sorry, I have running nose because I sat under the conditioner in this Ukrainian heat, and that was a wrong idea, and I think Yulia understands me. We've been publishing such sort of articles for about 5 years now, I guess, and we are totally fine with that. Actually, we think that this is one of the best ways to place advertising on the website these days, or on media publication. because again, the most important thing is to be honest with the audience, and that's what we do. We, of course, indicate with a very huge disclaimer at the very beginning that this is a partner content. Usually, with the logo of the company we are working with, and that's one thing. And then another thing is that we have a dedicated team which is producing this content together with the company that we work with, so that it fits our standards of quality, so that it's something interesting, so that it's something worth being read. And yeah, so we are totally in favor, and it also brings some income. But the idea of our strategy has been that we should diversify the sources of income as much as possible, and that's why we have all sorts of different types of income, which is a safe measure for us, actually. Now the next question is from Yulia Rashidko. I wonder who is that? No, kidding. Of course I know. Does Club's content fit the unique niche in Kyrgyzstan, so it's easier for you to attract the audience? I think yes, in a way. You see, this is maybe our, I don't know if I can call it a privilege, because it's kind of an earned privilege, because we really had to work hard to fit this niche. But this might be also a very important step for whoever is launching a new media outlet, is like really, I mean, and I understand these days that I still try to fit into the narrative of our today's topic. So if we talk about branding and marketing, it's of course a very wide range of terms. It's not just designing your logo, of course. It's just logo is just one of the examples. So in many cases, finding your own niche is probably one of the most important first steps when it comes to how you brand yourself and how you position yourself. So I guess in our case, it wasn't really that much that we were looking for this unique niche. I think we just really wanted to do something that we like, and then it came as a surprise to us that at some point we realized that we are probably the only ones who are doing something. The biggest surprise was before the second revolution in Kyrgyzstan. When the night before the key events, we suddenly understood that we are the only ones doing the kind of text broadcasting, because video broadcasting was not really existing back then online, about what's going on, and that was such a niche thing to do, because not so many media did that in general, but that night most of media were scared, to do that. So that of course helps, and finding your niche. Oh my God, I should have included that into the presentation. Thank you for the question here. Is something that might help you to sacrifice actually the work on the rest of what is usually understood by branding. And we were approached by several designers, for example, who asked us, like, if we are interested in, for example, designing a brand book for a club. And then we asked, like, how much does it cost? And they would tell us, and we were like, oh, we are sorry, we're such a small NGO we were back then, like, we cannot really afford that. That's too expensive. We'll just wait, We're still waiting though. But maybe sometime, that's why in one of my slides I put a huge question mark about the future of our, branding, because maybe we will come to that. It just really depends a lot on how much we feel that this is efficient in terms of spending of our resources. And the next question is, what advice would you give to young journalists? Well, to any young journalist, the advice would be really to, first of all, it really depends on whether you want to do something by yourself, like your own kind of media channel or your own media outlet, or whatever, or you want to work for someone else. But what really helps is practicing a lot. What really helps is producing and not being afraid to produce some really bad content in the beginning. Of course, try not to break the law when doing that. and try not to, try not to make harm to people while doing that. But my bad stories were written when I was 14 years old, and I started writing about. That is really strange. It doesn't have to do anything with today's topic, but I will still tell it. I was a fan of Formula One racing, so I started writing for the Russian language, biggest website back then about Formula One. And somehow I chose to write an everyday column about what happened on this day. And it was a nightmare, to do that, because that meant that I had an everyday deadline to write a text. And I was still a school kid. It was a crazy period, for a year I was doing that. And then the next year, everything started repeating. So I didn't have to do that anymore. But the thing is, this was the period of my bad writing. But it was such a great way to kind of to practice writing that I think after such an experience, you almost almost inevitably will do something better just because you tried all the worst. So that would be one of the advices. But then another thing is. And that's something that really goes along with today's topic is don't try to maybe spend too much time on something related to either technology or anything that is not related to content. Try to save as much as possible on that. Like when we started Club, we had absolutely zero knowledge in programming. We had no idea how to build a website, really. And why would we know, But so we just used, a free platform. And it was 2006, it was still kind of pre-social media era. So, if we did it like, I don't know, even 6 years later, most likely we would start our media on, I don't know, as a Facebook page, using something that is existing, just focusing on the content. And look, how it worked in so many cases, especially in countries where where you have significant, important media which are run by some partisan groups or whatever, like what happened in Belarus, for example, with the whole rise of Telegram channels last year. They have become suddenly so popular, and I think one of the reasons was they didn't waste their time on doing something complicated technologically. They just started writing great content, using existing platforms, and then suddenly became so popular that Belarusian authorities go as far as lending planes. I mean, this is crazy, isn't it? And it happened to like the owner of the Telegram channel. So that would be the other advice, that if you really want to build something, use the most cost-efficient, cheapest free technologies that you can. Don't think too much about how. Many media outlets, young media outlets, have really weird logos. It's okay. You can live with that. As soon as you have great content, as soon as you have amazing audience which trusts you, and as soon as you're honest with it, that will bring you success. That will be your marketing, and then the rest will come. The next question is, do you use social media for distribution? If yes, which social networks do you prefer? We do, of course, and we've been I was not really focusing that much on that because Dimitris has told a lot about it already, and I think what I'm going to say might repeat in a way the idea that he shared, but I will maybe use it emphasizing on our experience. And our experience was that exactly as the previous presentation showed, that somehow we managed to understand intuitively what are going to be the next ways to disseminate information, and that helped us a lot, especially in the beginning. because when Facebook appeared, and when it became great question, Julia. Sorry, I'm distracted by next question. So when Facebook started being used in Kyrgyzstan, it was not so many people. It was like it was used by, I don't know, 200 people maybe. It was such an unpopular media, social media platform. But we kind of saw how revolutionary it is becoming. It's so funny these days, because these days when I hold a workshop, for example, for students or for especially high school students, they always say that Facebook is for old people, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But back then in 2007, it was a very cool modern thing, and it was the first media platform where we started promoting our content. And again, we tried to use this kind of personal approach, very personal approach, and by using our personal profiles a lot, and back then you couldn't even create a page on Facebook anyway, and that helped us build maybe the core of the audience. And today we are trying to focus on several social media platforms. We just try to see what is most popular in Kyrgyzstan, and we are trying to experiment with the new ones. Like we recently launched our TikTok channel, and but we couldn't find a person who knows what to do with TikTok, and then suddenly we found, which was of course a high school student, I guess, or maybe some early years university student, and she started doing amazing stuff, like really funny, like something that really fits well into TikTok, thing. And we suddenly had a couple of videos which gained, like, I don't know, 100, dozens of thousands or something. I don't remember what are the metrics in TikTok, views or whatever. I mean, we started having some trending things on TikTok. So, however you like it or not, as Dimitris said, probably it's inevitable, to work with it. And Yulia then asks us about money for the school for girls who build a satellite, and that's one of the most unexpected projects that we could ever run. And when we announced that we are doing this, people were like, "Why are you doing that? Like, are you crazy? How does it, what does it have in common with media?" But actually it does, and this is the thing, that's another, kind of partisan branding that we kind of made in a way, because we understood at some point that our organization is definitely expanding far beyond journalism, which is fine for us, and so we at some point understood that we are turning more into educational organization, especially when we started educating programmers. And then at some point, we thought, why don't we have more courses related to technology? Because we have been doing so much things that were on the crossroads of technology and journalism. And we were totally annoyed by the fact that there were almost no women applying for these courses. I mean, even though we had an open call, anybody could join, we would have like only maybe 2-3 women per course, and then like 30 men or something. I mean, just crazy gender imbalance, which just happens because it seems like there is so much prejudice within the society about what girls can do and cannot do. So we thought, let's do something on purpose for young women, and let's do something crazy, And then and then at the same point, I met a guy from NASA at one of the events I was attending, and we are both fellows of the same program, and he started telling me about this very tiny satellites that you can send to space for not really a huge amount of money, not at least not the extent of money that you usually expect from the space industry. And I thought, oh wow, that's crazy. And then we just decided to combine. We opened a call, and we invited any women, no matter what age they are, just to come to our office, and we would tell them that, there is such an opportunity to do that. If you want, just take it and lead the whole project. And that's how this group was formed. And we have a separate crowdfunding for them. We also had some additional kind of donors funding for this, and they have already managed, through this 3 years since they gathered for the first time, having almost zero knowledge about what to do. They have already managed to assemble like the so-called education kit of the satellite. It's kind of the pre-model, and now their next step is to assemble the test version of the satellite, which would be the exact copy of the one which will be launched into the space, and then they will start working on the satellite itself. But it's a totally different story. Somehow, of course, it helped us, a lot in terms of this was a sign, for many people that our organization is changing, that it's expanding, that it is becoming, something much more than a journalism organization or a media organization, and moving so much into technology kind of area. And the next question is from the anonymous user, who asks about, I really don't know who is that. Do you have problems with content about tolerance, for example, about LGBT? If yes, how did you solve problems with hate speech? What are your recommendations for spreading information about tolerance in an intolerant environment? My answer probably is not everybody would like it, but and maybe it's not for everybody. It requires some risks, what I'm going to tell you. The thing is, you should of course first decide to which extent are you about to risk. What threats are you able to withstand? What security measures have you taken in order to protect yourself and all the employees and whatever? And then, after everything is ready, just fight, But in our case, it was different because we started fighting before we got prepared, to anything. We published our first story about LGBT rights just 3 months after we founded Club in 2007, and immediately we had enormous hate speech. Crazy. It was a story about how transgender people are attacked in Kyrgyzstan and harassed by the police, and suddenly, there were so many hate groups groups of people in the comments who were supporting, the actions of the police, and I was terrified. But then later on, that also became part of our image. That's something that also kind of became part of our image, part of our branding. Although again, we didn't do it deliberately, But I remember there was one protest in Kyrgyzstan in 2014. Some group of really weird conservative dudes, mostly it was men, of course, were protesting in front of our parliament building, and they were asking, the parliament to adopt a legislation that would ban the gay propaganda, as they said, whatever they mean by that. And so they were standing there protesting, and then the speaker, like one of the leaders of this movement, he took the microphone and he said something like, "Gay propaganda is spread in Kyrgyzstan today through journalists, through social media, and through Club." And we were like, wow, that's so cool. He kind of made us a separate category. So it was a huge, honor that he thought we were kind of parallel to journalism and social media. Amazing, and in a way, it's also part of our branding, surprisingly, like the image of the media outlet that is very, that really cares a lot about what's happening with human rights in Kyrgyzstan, including LGBT rights. And of course, we would never, make any step back in this fight. That makes us a bit more activists, maybe, but that's fine. Again, we are totally fine. Like, we don't want, to, in this case, we don't want to pretend to be neutral. We kind of openly admit that, yes, we are the media outlet that supports LGBT rights, because how can it be otherwise anyway? So, but solving problem with hate speech, it's difficult. It depends on what kind of hate speech. If it's a direct threat, of course, we would do all our best, to kind of file a report to the police and to take legal action when it's possible against those people who are doing that. If it's just, people sharing their opinion, however much hate it contains, in many cases, you cannot really do much. But we try, our best not to block comments, for example. We want people to see, if we feel that hate speech is sent collectively by bots, we would just report them, and because of some of our work, I think Facebook has banned already something like 500 or something accounts which were created by bots. But in general, we are, I think, spending much more efforts on rather kind of gathering or informing people to become allies. That's even more important, I guess. It's one thing, of course, to fight against hate speech, and it's very important too. But for us, it was much more important, to educate people and to make sure that we have more and more people who, after reading our content, really change their views. And surprisingly, we had such recorded kind of cases when some people would actually really change their approach. I received some really interesting messages sometimes, which made me very optimistic, about people who previously were homophobic, but then would become LGBT friendly. So that's something that we would love to direct our efforts to. So I think my presentation kind of was short. It was case, as Dimitris said. But hopefully we had a very fruitful Q&A session, which I hope was useful for our users, for our audience, and thank you very much, everybody.
Definitely interesting. Thank you so much, Bektour. I just took over from Yulia. It's funny to see how we are in very
Hi.
We are in very different countries. I'm from Romania, but we have very similar problems. The fight is the same in all the world about pushing the tolerance agenda and trying to help people understand that we shouldn't waste our energy on hating other people. But
absolutely,
it's a hard job, and probably we will have to fight even harder during the next years. Who knows? Let's see.
Absolutely, and that's why I just wanted to add something quite important, and I think that's why the networks like our network are important, because there are many challenges we have to face, including including this, basically, where we have hate speech spread and whatever, but also stuff like organized crime and corruption, which is also a very, very huge problem. That actually fuels a lot of really bad stuff happening in our country, including homophobia. Surprisingly, but then we should become also organized. That's the thing. They are so well and they are called organized crime because they really efficiently work across borders. I mean, they managed to transfer like cocaine from Colombia to Italy, somehow, and then spread it all over Europe and earn like billions of dollars or whatever currency. So and unfortunately, up until recently, we civil society and journalists we're too much fragmented. Too much living within our own kind of eggshells of our countries. I hope eggshell is a good metaphor here, because I'm not sure it's used in English this way. But anyway, this is the time for us, to cooperate. And one of our like big steps in success was when we started cooperating with some global networks like OCCRP, which is a huge and very successful, like investigative network from Bosnia, and or any other media in our kind of post-colonial region, as I call it. So that's what definitely we should do, and it's great that we have that more and more networks. So we should make it stronger, because we definitely have lots of challenges.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
The co-founder and the director of OCCRP is Romanian, is Paul Radu, and he's one of the best in the world. So I know him, and he's amazing. But definitely, OCCRP could be an example for us as getting together and putting our efforts together for the same good cause. And we have to learn from them. But the problem is that we are divided by, I don't know, the reasons of existing, the means of existing as organization, as activists, as different voices on the same side. But we have to face those problems. Guys, thank you so much. It's been an interesting talk. I can only imagine how well we could have continued this discussion in an offline event, talking about this and planning evil plans for the good of the world. But we have to stop before the Zoom fatigue sets in again. So Dimitris, Bektour, and guys, everyone who attended, thank you very much for everything and for your contribution. And I really hope we managed to actually see each other and to to plan more, to conspire more for good things together over a coffee or a glass of wine. So thank you once again, and I wish you on behalf of my colleagues from DCN good night, good evening. Enjoy your few hours of freedom, and see you at the next event. And enjoy summer.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.